What's going on, everyone? Today we are out in our garden today just doing some harvesting and some planting of things. And I wanted to come to you because if you're looking at these tomatoes and you're thinking, they don't look the best, I'd agree with you. These tomatoes don't look the best, and they've been through a lot. I've been through a lot as a gardener. And I know from talking to a lot of you, you've probably been through a lot as well this year. And so in today's episode, we're going to touch on how to overcome burnout. Because one of the things that I've kind of just heard as a common theme as when I'm talking to gardeners is that you're kind of just done with this year. You don't even want to put a garden in. It was so frustrating. It was so hot. It was so dry. It was so many other things that a garden just doesn't really feel like fun. And because of that, you kind of just want to be done. You just want to put your hands up and say, all right, well, try again next year. And so we're going to touch on that. We're going to talk about how I overcome burnout because it is a very real feeling. And hopefully by the end, not only will you be encouraged to continue your garden, plant out a fall garden, but also kind of give you some hope that when those feelings arise, that there's a solution to kind of get you through them. I don't want to sound too hyperbolic when I say this, but our summer was easily one of the hardest growing seasons I can ever recall in my entire life as a gardener. I just don't recall a year where June 1st, I remember the headlines, heat wave coming to Michigan. June 1st, 90 degrees. June 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, all 90 degrees. The whole week. 7 straight days of 90 degrees. And I said, ooh, man, I hope that's not a glimpse of how the growing season is gonna go, because if it is, we've got some problems. It was a glimpse of how the growing season was gonna go. From that moment, from June 1st up until just about last week, we had 85 to 90 degree temperatures every single day. There was only a couple days in there. We set several records. One of the records was the longest period of above average temperatures, consecutive days. We had 68 days of above average temperatures. Just insane, absolutely crazy. And I heard a lot of you say, yeah, well, at least you're not here in Arkansas where it's 110 degrees. That's a beautiful tomato, gorgeous tomato. You should be glad you're not in Arkansas where it's 110 degrees. Absolutely. Was it 110 degrees and 90% humidity? Because when it's 85 to 90 degrees and it's 95% humidity, totally different ballgame. It's truly not the heat that is much of a problem as it is the humidity. Your skin just feels like you can't even breathe. It's thick air. Your plants can't tolerate the humidity either. They can't dry off. They get disease prone and they're stressed and they suffer. But that being said, we persevered through the season. We kept watering, kept our plants as healthy as they could be, and we're seeing the rewards from that. For a lot of you, not as much for us, we got the opposite of a drought. For a lot of you, you were in drought-like conditions. The west side of the state actually had an incredible drought. Rain just never hit you if you were on the west side of the state. Whereas we got it all. It just blew over the west side, dropped it on the east side. And from about the 4th of July, look at that, incredible, absolutely amazing. From about the 4th of July until about the first week in August, we got rain twice a week, every week. And that was challenging too because it was hot, it was 90, 95 degrees, plus all that excessive rain led to so much plant disease that we were kind of struggling in the reverse, whereas people on the west side, they were struggling because they couldn't just couldn't irrigate crops. It was so bad. And when I'm talking to gardeners, I hear all these stories and I hear people say, I'm just done this year. I say, oh, are you gonna plant a fall garden? No, I'm done. I just don't wanna fight this anymore. I just wanna kind of give up and call it quits for the year. And let me tell you that is a very real feeling. That's what a lot of people call burnout. Burnout is classified as the feeling of fatigue. It's excessive fatigue where continuing the payoff of continuing doesn't feel worth it. And so it's a desire for a reset. And that feeling is very real. That feeling of burnout is very real. I'll be honest, I've wanted fall since June. Ever since that first 90-degree day, I said, you know what? I'll be fine if we just miss summer this year. I just want fall. I don't want to sound like that person. I don't want to sound like a Debbie Downer, but I don't want this summer anymore. I want a refund on summer is what I said several times. And that was so that I could grow a fall garden. But I just talked to a couple that came in the shop the other day. And I said, are you guys planting a fall garden? They said, no, we're not planting a fall garden. We're too burnt out. And so that inspired me to make this video because I want to talk about how we're going to push through that burnout, because the burnout was a very real feeling, the burnout of summer. And now that summer is coming to a close, it's very easy for us to just be like, man, I'm lacking motivation. I'm lacking motivation to get myself into the garden and continue to grow, continue to harvest. Some of you guys have harvested so much. Some of you have harvested so much that you get burnout from your harvest. You're like, I don't really want it anymore. I've been picking beans for the past 2 months. I'm just kind of done picking beans. And so some people, you get burnout from just having an overabundance, and that's okay too. But we're going to talk about how I overcome burnout, because I got some other stuff to plant for our fall garden. And yeah, I'm really excited to get our fall garden planted because I think fall is going to be, it's going to be great. Check it out. Look at this. Now, granted, the plants are basically done for the year. This is our third harvest off our tomato plants. So when I say that the payout was worth the perseverance, I would totally agree. The payoff was absolutely worth the perseverance. Pushing through that burnout, pushing through that heat, all the nasty, crappy, terrible weather we had. So worth it. The first way that I get through burnout is by perspective. You have to remember that perspective gives you a relative starting point, or something to essentially use as a foundation. Without a foundation, you're just in free fall, right? You're spiraling. So the perspective for me was the season all that bad? Okay. Yes, the temperatures were terrible. Yes, the humidity was unbearable. Yes, the pest pressure this year was, just ungodly. But despite all those things, we were able to get significant harvests, significant production that gave us food, that put food on my family's table, that allowed me to can and preserve and put up more food than I ever have before. That's my perspective. Also, perspective is the heat going to stay forever, right? We can live so often in the here and now and forget that tomorrow is going to be different. Is tomorrow going to rain if you're in a drought? Is the drought going to last forever, right? Is the heat going to last forever? That's the perspective of the future as well. It's like the here and now can be the here and now, but is it different than what tomorrow is going to bring? That can give you hope and perspective that can help to get you back out into the garden and help you to continue to plant. So that's really important. I look at perspective. And the second thing that I look at is payoff and reward. So me planting this fall garden, what is my reward? What is my payout? What's the payoff of having a fall garden? Well, payoff is that it's going to be a time in which I can grow all of my warm weather crops as well as all my cool weather crops. So I'm expecting, if things go according to how fall usually goes, I don't have a crystal ball, but I should expect far more production in the fall than I experienced in the summer even, because my fall planting of tomatoes, those should all be just starting to come into production. They are. I'm also planting carrots. I have a fall planting of cucumbers. Notice the cucumbers over here, they don't have any cucumber beetle damage. That's because they're not stressed, they're healthy. They just got planted about 2-3 weeks ago. They're thriving, they're loving life, they're doing amazing. And so there should be an extra payoff for my efforts in the fall. So those things that's what's motivating me, right? And I have started running. I was never a runner. If you're not a morning person, right? I run in the morning now before work. I run about 3 to 4 miles a day. And when I first got started, now it's become a routine. It's more comfortable for me to just say, man, the sheets are so warm, the bed is so soft, I could lay here, I could just scroll on my phone a little bit longer, I could hang out with the kids and get a start to the morning. But I said, no. I have to get out. And what I found was it was that initial getting out of bed, which absolutely sucked. It sucked, and I'm not going to say it didn't. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It sucked to make the commitment to just get out of bed. But the moment I was out of bed, It was that fast. The moment I was out of bed, I said, well, I'm out of bed, so complaining about it doesn't really do me any good anyways. I might as well just get started my day. I was grumpy about it for this long. And then I realized, all right, well, there's nothing to complain about now. I'm already out of bed, might as well just go. So I went for my run, and after my run, I said, I'm glad I did that. But it's so funny because then the very next day, I had the same feeling. I said, man, you know what? It sucks. I don't want to run. I don't want to get out of bed. And I did it. Same thing. Moment I got out of bed, that wasn't that bad. It was worse in my mind than it was in reality. And so the final way that we get through burnout that I recommend is to realize that your mind is going to pick the path of least resistance. Your mind will try to fool you into thinking that quitting is going to be easier. Let's just do it next year. I don't want the heat. I don't want the humidity. I want the pests. I don't want to deal with it. Not worth it. You plant a fall garden and you will look back and say, I'm glad I did that. It takes 10 minutes to plant it out. It takes 15 minutes to plant it out, depending on how big it is. It doesn't take that long. It doesn't take that long to plant it out. And then you think, I'm glad I did that. Planting it out doesn't take that long. In our mind, it feels like it's going to take all day. It's a dread. It's a chore. It's that bad. It's not that bad. It doesn't actually take that long to do. And so we are here. We're going to plant out these carrots, these beets. I'm going to pull out those summer tomatoes. We're going to plant some kale. We're going to plant some radishes in about maybe 4 or 5 weeks. We're going to plant some radishes. We're going to plant some more beets. We're going to plant another fall harvest of cabbage where our other cucumbers were. And we're going to have an amazing fall garden. And it won't take that long to do. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope this really helped you kind of get through those summer blues, those feelings of burnout, because it is a very real feeling. I'm not sitting here pretending like those feelings are not real, but you have to rely on optimism. You have to rely on the fact that the future will be different than the current. And you also have to realize that your mind can sometimes, most of the time, make things out to be way worse than they actually really are. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you all learned something new. If you did, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll catch you all on the next episode. I'm excited because now we're getting into fall. Even more gardening content coming your way. So we'll catch you guys all on the next episode. Grow bigger. Take care, everyone. Bye.